Oh, I hear somebody's dog. Who's got a dog?
I do.
That's
Sitting
so
right here, I'm
awesome.
scratching his head, and he's going.
I know, I love it. It's so cute. I'm like, I know, I hear it. It's amazing.
I'll have to mute. Go lay down.
I have to say, I'm panting too. I'm so excited.
Of course, Mark. How are you? That's awesome.
Great. Good to see you, brother.
This is going to be exciting, Audrey and Andrew. I think the whole world's ready for this baby.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Thanks
Nice
for
background
saying
there,
that.
Mark.
Yeah, he's got it covered. Look at that. Accelerator's coming up next, everybody.
Hell yeah. Hi, Devin. How are you? I haven't seen you in forever. It's nice to see you, buddy.
You bet.
Thanks for
Thanks
being
Devin.
here.
Getting this going.
Look at you. How's it going there?
Good.
All right. Happy 2021.
Yeah, who's that talking?
That's me. That's Andrew.
So we're just going to wait for another minute and then we will begin. So thank you everyone for being here on our new platform, offsitedirt.com. It's very exciting for 2021. And our very first guest, Andrew. Woohoo!
Yay.
I have to say the logo is awesome. The lady, Andrea, that's been writing the articles, she does a wonderful
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you know her personally, don't you there, Mark? Yep, it's all in the family.
So cool.
Well, I think that we should begin. Scott, what do you think?
Sounds good. Shall we show the introductory video?
We will show the intro. Welcome to offsitedirt.com, our brand new 2021 platform featuring amazing industry leaders and experts. Brought to you by Michelle Boyer. And Modular SureSite. I'm your host, Audrey Grubesic, and welcome to our Offsite Construction series. Our very first industry leader this year is Andrew Seeley. He's a managing partner of GPod Global. He serves the US and is located in Central Texas. He's originally from Chicago, the North Side, as we like to say. It's exciting to have him here. He has been interested in creating solutions of durable, sustainable, and off-the-grid home designs, along with commercial building applications. Dwell is his unique design that is a drop and live space. It's sustainable, easy to set up, and can be connected to electrical, whether that be solar, water, wastewater. And we're excited to have him here today. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to really start talking about future buildings and will our kids want to build or have buildings we leave behind for them. So thank you very much for being here. Welcome, Andrew. And
Did
it's
I
all
lose you
yours,
there?
Andrew. Take it away. Yep.
Okay, sorry, I lost my audio. I had to dial back in. Hey, everybody, I'm Andrew from GPod Americas. I didn't get to hear the intro, so if there was a question I need to answer, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead.
Go for it. We're ready for you.
All right. So GPod is a product-oriented architectural design group. We're really interested in what buildings and communities will look like in the future, and we're very keen on trying to be part of that, whatever that is, whatever that turns out to be. And today's a discussion about that. Let's see if we can have some fun wondering what the future would look like. One of the things that we focus on right now is connecting people with a little bit of outdoor space. So a lot of folks want to live a little bit closer to nature, and we help them do that better and quicker. On the screen right there is a Dwell. That's a ship product that can be hauled in with one truckload, set up in a day. You can sleep in it or rent it that night. If you want something different, we have a few different styles. The new thing that we're doing is Nexus, which is could be a much larger building. And you know, we're working on technology, IoT, commercial IoT solutions, and quite a bit else. Really pretty open to materials and technologies that will come to us as we go along and in the future. So of course, we want to be using wood, and all the engineered wood is a pretty huge topic. We're very interested in that. And you know, maybe there will be some new materials that come along. We'd like to see what those are going to be and how are we going to use them. So Dan Sparks down there at the bottom is a pretty interesting paragraph. Dan Sparks is a really well-known Australian architect, and he's our design lead. And we'd like to work with him to bring the visions that he has to bear. And Dwell was started a while ago. You know, it's an older product for us, but we have quite a few that we're trying to bring out. We've got the first single from the record released, and we're getting the rest of the songs recorded and put together for the album. So that's what we're up to now, and we're kind of focused on Nexus, but that's a big one. We'll talk more about that as we go. You know, the future is kind of hard to make predictions about. We all try to do it a little bit. It's kind of tricky. We don't have much data from the future. So we think relocatability is important, designing for different uses, trying to give the future generations flexibility. I think the title of the talk, Will Our Kids Want the Buildings We Leave Them, is kind of cheeky. I don't have any kids, but at the same time, it's a good topic, right? Everybody's got families, and what are those future generations going to need in the way of a building? So I think we know from the passive house folks that water is something we need to control pretty carefully if we want our buildings to last a long time, and we really should want our buildings to last a long time. So how do we go about doing that and still give ourselves an opportunity to participate with the future generations? So I think we can look at the buildings we have and say, great, we've got a building. If we're going to build something new or renovate or rehab something old, how are we going to do that? We want to be able to create, let's hope we want to be able to create value for those future generations. You know, if we can make buildings last the period of time they were designed to last, I think it's a win for everybody. The future communities will find that valuable. So on that slide, there's an interesting thing, automation on the bottom. We're working with some pretty big names out there to develop IoT solutions. So that's something we haven't really had the bandwidth to talk much about, but that's coming. So keep that in mind among all the other things we're talking about. The technology helping to take the digital design from the folks that are siloed over in the design department to manufacturing, and then deliver those to the operational teams so that we have a legacy of the data that we develop from the design to the manufacturing and then to operations. So we think the IoT side of that is a big opportunity for us to participate there, to make sure that the communities of the future are getting the value that was intended when those buildings were designed. So on this page, we've got the dwell on the left. That's a ship product. It's meant to go in one truckload into the site. Could be a 40-foot, could be a 20-foot. And that's all self-contained. It's all prefab, shows up ready to go. All that you see there, the deck, the stairs, the fly roof, all those parts are all shipped inside. It's not really big, but it's big enough. And you have a lot of outdoor space. On the right-hand side, there's the Nexus, and that's meant to be a scalable platform so that a developer that wants to do something unique, obviously we're into design, so we like those iconic, cool-looking, futuristic buildings. And Nexus is something that we wanted to offer to developers and builders to give them something that's pretty easier to work with, uses all the advantages of prefab, but could be site-built where needed or hybrid where needed, and gives them something they can work with to scale. Ultimately, it's relocatable. We'd have to wait to see in the future if that ends up being as important as we think it is, but it's a cool thing, you know, to imagine a marketplace where you can move your assets around. Kind of a cool idea. Real estate is meant to be sort of a permanent arrangement right now, but we think maybe that could change when our products are really relocatable. So Nexus, right there, you see the radius corners. It doesn't necessarily have to have those. We can build them with orthogonal or straight corners. But we like those cool shapes, and as we've learned, you know, it's not easy, but it's fun. So we have a good time, and the shapes themselves are simple enough that somebody could say, oh, okay, well, if each one is 280 square feet, then maybe I want 4 or 5 or 6 of those, and maybe we have a small lot, so we need to stack them vertically to get the scale that we need. In any case, it's meant to be a simple platform for people to build with, and it could be easily fitted out for the local markets, right? You don't have to have them all the same from a global supplier. Each one is identical. They could be fitted out with local materials and local styles as needed. In the future, I imagine there'll be a lot more off-site work being done. So, you know, hopefully that becomes regional as well, where we're not, maybe we're not shipping things across oceans. Maybe we're doing it pretty much locally, right? That's a hope. We feel like Nexus is something we could build pretty much anywhere there's a demand. So, all right. Here's a good look at a few different styles that we have. Obviously, the Nexus on the left, that is anything from a single ADU unit to big buildings on the left there. That's an 8,000 square foot, 8-unit apartment building with a glass stairway and elevator space between the buildings. And then on the right would be what we would do with our ship product if we were going to a location that we wanted to ship everything prefab finished. This would be like ocean freight. And all those parts there would be delivered to the site and assembled pretty quickly. Those would be part of our ship containerized solution. To the right is just a pop in Central Park. That would be the commercial version of what we call the dwell. And 2 on the bottom, on the left side would be medical and educational products. And then on the bottom right is our Safari, which is kind of a pretty exciting design. That's not got a kitchen, but it's all bedroom and bathroom, king size bed, and a nice little deck and plunge pool in the front. So that's meant to serve what we may remember was called the hospitality industry. So that's sort of taking a break right now, but we hope that all comes back soon. And obviously we were pretty oriented towards hospitality before, but you know, now we can focus on something near and dear to me, which is affordable housing. So multifamily, let's go. All right, so there's some videos if you wanna play the Nexus video, we can watch that real quick. So there you go.
If it could only
So
be that easy, right? If we could only be that easy.
Well, there's this group I know called Modular SureSite, and it is that easy with them. You know, they just put stuff
pop that
together
sucker
really
together.
fast. Yeah. You know,
I
those
love it.
non-ferrous magnets, they work great. So
They're awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
they're beautiful, beautiful idea and design.
Yeah. So that's a fun design. I mean, it's just meant to be same size modules that are married along the sides, right? The long edge. And we could do them in the short edge too, but they're just meant to be similar shapes so we can put them together into larger structures. So it's a really easy approach. Yeah, so there's a dwell. That's Home Sweet Home back in March. That was just well, let's see, back in February, a year ago, that was just an off-grid demo. And then, well, you know what happened. And so I decided to leave Austin to go live there because, well, it was all up and running. I might as well, right? And then we could continue working on the prototype here. So that's what we've done. It took me a few months to get all the homesteading details worked out, which is still kind of, you know, ongoing. Of course, we all know offsite is best when you plan ahead. And so sometimes if you don't plan ahead, you have to do things while you're there and it's not the best. So I've learned that.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did you learn from having this out there? What were your advantages? How fast did it take you to get up?
Well, it does. They don't take long. You know, for us, it's a day. If you put solar on the roof, it takes longer, right? That whole thing takes well, we did it in 2 days. 1 day for the racking and 1 day for the array. But you know, that building is pretty easy to deploy and withdraw. The problem is, you know, you've got to put other plans in place. You got to figure out water and where's the waistline going and all that stuff. And you know, if you live in a forest and you haven't really planned where that site is, it adds a little bit to the, you know, it's an example of how not to do construction, because you're supposed to plan ahead and get everything ready so that when you bring the product in, it's immediately completed. Well, that wasn't how it worked out. So I think the big lesson was their plan ahead, and it makes the work a lot quicker and easier. But for sure, the GPod product is really well suited to this. You know, you don't have to do a great deal of on-site construction with this type of a product. And we want to do light touch. We want to do installs that are sensitive to the surroundings and give people an opportunity to enjoy nature without being cruelly subjected to nature, where it's quite difficult, you know, in the Caribbean or somewhere there's a lot of wind, or those types of events can be traumatic for building owners. So we try to plan around that. But you want to give people access to the nature that they've chosen to live in, and do it in the best possible way, so they can wake up in the morning and open the blinds, the automatic blinds, and enjoy the view. So it's quite fun. I think my life has involved a lot of unusual living circumstances, so this was not a difficult thing to take in stride. It's quite fun. And with this product, I guess it's more novelty than maybe you'd have with living in a Home Depot shed or something like that. You know, it's pretty amazing. I have 120 volt and 240 volt electricity that I think most off-grid buildings would not have, and I have quite a bit of it. You know, I'm charging a Tesla on that building right there that you're looking at. So, I mean, it's getting dark out. It's not charging now, but during the middle of the day, it's charging there. So I'd say it's been really good, Audrey.
You know, when you were talking specifically, when you were talking specifically about your light touch, can you explain exactly what that means?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the site. If we had an example, we could talk about it better. But right there, that was a rock ledge that we just put a retaining wall in. You can see at the bottom of the picture, there's some limestone blocks. Those are 2,200 pound limestone blocks. I've got 16 of them there, at the bottom. And then there's just base material from the local, there's a quarry about a mile away. So it's just crushed limestone. Everything here is limestone unless it's wood. And so that was just a very small project, 4 little concrete footings. We didn't bolt or weld to them. We just kind of have it sitting on there because it's meant to be temporary out here. So you really want to, I think with light touch, you're trying to not disrupt the nature. You want to understand how to put a building in there and do it in the least negatively impactful way, I guess is a good way to say it. So we're just trying to go in and pick a good spot on a site. You know, a lot of the nature around here is forest. So you're going into a site typically, if it's been ranched, you'd have pastures, but we're going into forest usually. So we have to figure out how to get in there without doing too much damage. And trees have all kinds of functions, privacy and protection and greenery and all those. I mean, there's just a million things trees do well. And so you want to be mindful of those things. And we try to do the big parts of construction without really permanently changing the landscape. So you want to do as much as possible that's natural. And the site that we're working on with Nexus is about 500 feet east of me, 400 something feet east of me. And we're trying to preserve that site the best we can. So we're using equipment approaches and access that's mindful of the features that we don't want to disturb. And in an area like this where the soils are very thin, if you do a lot of digging and maybe a lot of concrete, it changes quite a bit how the property functions naturally later. So in every area, it might be a little bit different. But if you're in the tropical area, the soils are very sensitive to construction. You get a lot of erosion. If you did say a big cut and fill in a steep slope, and you wanted to make a really big slab for your 5,000 square foot house, you'd create not just a giant project, but it would permanently change the nature there for quite a long time. So we try to avoid doing big slabs. I think they're really fun to play on, but they're pretty intrusive to the natural setting, and they're quite expensive. So we like to use structural methods that allow us to put in that building, you know, there's only 6 square feet of contact with the ground, if you don't count the steps. So it isn't very disruptive, and that building there has a rainwater collection. We call it a pillow tank underneath it, and you know, it's nice to have a little level space for that. But it's really all about understanding the site the best you can and trying to plan access in. Sometimes we need big equipment, and so then you're making strategic decisions about getting around to the trees that are more or less sacred. You don't want to get rid of those trees, and you don't want to damage those trees. You know, you see the construction sites, they kind of wire the 2x4s around the trunks of the tree to make sure people aren't hitting them with excavators or whatever. And so we're mindful of those kinds of things and really want to preserve. Nature is such a big part of our designs. Allowing people to appreciate and enjoy the nature is such a big part of our designs that we're keen on trying to preserve all of that wherever it is that we're working as much as possible.
So on that particular unit, on your particular dwell, you can go to the next slide. Go ahead, Scott.
Same one.
Yeah, so on that one, obviously we have a little bit more detail, because I was going to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about the space?
Yeah, so that space, it's what I'm sitting in. That is built on a 20-foot high cube. That means it's 9.5 foot tall container dimension, but it was never a cargo container. We fabricate those from scratch. It would have the same corner castings and doors, but that's about it. There is some skirting that's structural on a container that we use kind of decoratively, if you can call it decoration, to be industrial. You know, maybe it's not that decorative, but we think it's cool. And so we use the skirting on the bottom of the deck there. You can see that was facing out before we deployed the deck. That has skirting, and then the back, the bedroom and bathroom that you can see in there past the ceiling lights, right? There's a frame and a vertical wall between the bedroom and bathroom. And that's a slide out, and that's fully cantilevered. So we have beams in the floor, and we can roll that slide out by hand into its position, which gives you almost 6 feet of depth. So it lets you put in big beds and helps make the space very small for shipping. and as large as possible for a deployed solution, right? It gives it a pretty big feel. I would say most people that see these buildings are quite pleased, because it doesn't, yes, it's a small space, a couple of 100 square feet conditioned space, but you have this 140 square foot deck and this amazing perforated bench and this beautiful fly roof that lets the light in without burning you with heat. And, you know, the front of the building is glass. And so there's quite a lot of pleasure engineered into a pretty small space there. And that's how we try to give the best possible solution of logistics support, you know, so you're not taking a giant structure in somewhere that you don't need to. If it's difficult to get there, an island nation, or maybe a really, really difficult terrain, you might want a very small box to go out there. And this one is engineered enough so that, you know, we have a quick deploy, quick withdraw solution. And, you know, on that one, we can talk a little bit on the front. You'll see those two vertical posts. Those are downpipes for the rainwater. At the top, you'll see the gutters, and those are steel gutters. And those drain into those downpipes, and those downpipes, they're not connected to anything there in that picture. That was before we put the pillow tank in, but below me, there's a pillow tank that, you know, when it rains, it gets, it's like a cistern. It collects the water that we get off the roofs. So, and then there are four downpipes, two of them on the bedroom, which is the part in the back, you know, that slides out, and it's not really visible there except through the inside, but we have four downpipes that would collect water from the whole roof system. All three sections of it collect water.
Very nice.
So, and then we use those adjustable legs so that we can adjust for quite a bit of slope on site. We like that. It's nice to be off the ground. It makes it a little harder to manage thermal issues, and the envelope then would, you know, be exposed at the bottom. So you have to manage that in the design and production end. But getting off the ground is kind of nice. It gives you a little better view, and I think it's good if the nature around you is spends a lot of time crawling around, and you know you wouldn't see it very often. It's a little bit better defended, than something at grade. So we do quite a bit. There's a lot of engineering in this particular design, and you know, it looks like a container, so a lot of people think it was a container, but these are structurally really, really different than what you would see in a normal cargo container, but very cool. Yeah, there's an Nexus. So you can see we got a few different sizes. Those are all based on a same size module. The ones that are the deck area would be obviously outside the envelope, so we're not worried about thermal properties there or any of the fit out details that you'd have in an interior space. We can stack those. Basically, it's just meant to give folks a way to develop what they need where they need it, and use all the advantages of offsite without being maybe too old-fashioned. So some of us don't like all those complicated roof lines, and we like the simple shapes, the iconic shapes, and you know, that represent the future. I think that version of the Nexus is very iconic, really pleasing to those of us that fancy what might come next, and so it fits in well with our view to the future, and gives it that really cool feeling that obviously no other developer would be doing something that looked like that. So lets people differentiate their work, and it would always be in a neighborhood the reference point for any instructions or any kind of stories, because people would remember it and be able to see it and tie some sort of experience to. So. Yeah, okay, so on the left there is a rendering. We just put that out this week. That's the building we're doing here in Texas. That's a that's 1,000 square foot Nexus villa. And you can see it's got the deck module. That's a shed roof version of it. So it gives us a little bit better shape for just making it kind of cool looking, and maybe helps the solar a little bit. The solar is not standing up there. Normally we'd have that angled at the sun a little more, but it looks cool that way. A couple of interior pictures there, and then the 2-story Nexus as well. So those are all parts of the same brand, or the same product in our brand. It's meant to be something scalable. So you know, if you wanted to develop a building and you were thinking about what kind of size you wanted, those are quite spacious. On the left there, you can see the top of the shed roof. That's a 13-foot tall section there, so it's quite high. The woman that's standing there is you know, you can see there's quite a bit of space around her, and then on the other side it's 10 feet high. So it's a good proportion, but it lets people pick the size that they want without having to maybe just pick a predetermined shape or something. And we think the manufacturing for this type of product is a lot easier than something with 4 or 5 different roof lines and you know, a lot of carpentry. So yeah, that's our commercial. That's the same as the Dwell. It's just a commercial version of it, meant to be coffee shop or boutique or something that can be set up as needed, where needed. That one's kind of cool because it's in Central Park. We'd like to do that someday. Kind of a neat one. And then I think the next one might be, what's the next slide, Audrey? There we go. Okay, so that one's Australia. That was for the folks in Sydney. So those are just applications of the products that we have. You know, we're commercially oriented. We're really, we're happy to sell to consumers, but for us, the business that we're most keen on is the volume, the commercial stuff. So we want to work with developers that are looking for a solution that fits into the market that they're in, but gives them a chance to be recognized for doing something unusual and do it with fewer people, just like Offsite is normally presenting an opportunity to folks doing a lot more work with less labor, right? If you have a team of 30 people, maybe you can do 20% more projects because you're using Offsite in a way that lets people do more quicker. So that's always part of our approach. We're trying to pair the commercial side of buildings with the personal needs that we would have in, we all kind of need buildings for different things. And so we're trying to cover all those avenues and be a useful partner to folks that have commercial businesses or want to build for families and single family use as well, right? Consumers, ADUs, everything in there. Yep, more interior pictures of that particular one. I think that's the Central Park one. Yeah, more about the use cases, right? We can fit these out as needed for a lot of different applications. I think the technology that we're working on is not really part of our talk today. We're kind of getting ready to launch that, but it's one of the threads in our tapestry. We like interesting modern designs, and we think part of that is supporting the business that we're helping to build for our customers with good technology, and that really hasn't been done yet. So that's a big opportunity for us to try to bring what we think is a truly commercial IoT solution. So we'll be working on that, and we'll release those details as we get stuff installed into this Nexus prototype we're working on. We're excited about that. But everything from point of sale to building operations to healthcare, and for larger buildings, the operational side of it is really key. So letting, say you had a rental property and you were a absentee, remote manager of that property, you could do quite a bit of it. Make sure that you're caring for everything without maybe being there all the time. So it lets the operations side not support maybe a manager on site all the time, things like that. But there's a pretty cool part of the business, I think, for all of the buildings. You know, we're really getting to the point where the design, the manufacturing, and hopefully soon the operation lives off of the data that was created when the building was designed, carried over into the manufacturing, and then deployed for operation to serve that building and that community or whoever it is that needs the building for a very long period of time. Yeah, so there we are. The picture on the left is we have a trailer that we haul around our show unit. So they can be deployed and hauled around pretty easily. And that one actually can be deployed without taking it off the trailer. So I love cranes. It's really fun to have cranes to do the work with, but sometimes you want to go to a place and just deploy the solution there and not need the heavy equipment. Maybe you're out in the bush, or maybe you're in a place where you'd spend quite a bit to get the support from the crane. So we can deploy that directly on the trailer, and that lived on that trailer over a year before we put it on the ground down here. So yeah, we like the idea of the building being relocatable, and I think that picture tells you a little bit about that. You know, it's a kind of an RV, even though in the end it ends up on our foundation. So it's not quite as wobbly. You know, the RVs are kind of, a 3-year-old child running around would create a little bit of movement in the building, and this wouldn't happen with what we're doing. So you can see there that we have a kind of cool little trailer to deploy that on. Anybody have any questions about anything? Is there other stuff we can talk about? Happy to kind of jump into what anybody thinks the future might hold for materials or anything like that, if we got any questions. So I think one of the, you know, this whole offsite topic is quite important, I think, for our business. The design side is for us a big key element, not just designing something that looks cool, but getting something that's really going to be useful for a long period of time. So when we're thinking about designs, obviously we trend towards relocatability, that we think is a big feature, because you know, if you've got a property that's heavily wooded and you've got a fire, suddenly maybe that space is no longer interesting to live in. You don't have a nice view, or maybe if it's a commercial, you know, like short-term rental or something like that, or you had it for your family for a period of time and you want to move, the relocatability of a building is a really amazing thing to consider, right? If you could actually have that asset be in multiple places in its life cycle, that would be amazing. So we think about that in the design, and I think that leads us to materials. Right now we're pretty traditional, I think, in our materials, and wood will always be a natural material that lets us do amazing things. It's structural, it's fuel, it stores carbon, it smells good, it feels good, looks good. But other materials like concrete can be really problematic. So we're interested to see where our industry goes with materials, and that'll of course influence our design choices. But right now we're watching the space quite a bit. Additive manufacturing or 3D printing is pretty fascinating, and I think when we get to the point where the materials that we don't have yet are available on those very large print decks, I think that'll be a fascinating part of the growth of our industry into something that'll survive the demands we have on it now. Our capacity is probably growing. I mean, all these factories are being created, and we need them all. A lot of it is oriented towards product that we've optimized, sort of traditional product that we've optimized, which is good. But I think there's no question there's a huge opportunity for changes to be made as we come up with new materials. So we're really interested in that. I think solar is a power solution is pretty good at this point, but I imagine that's going to change when we can put more power and store more power in a smaller package. That's pretty amazing, and that will change. But you know, what will the walls be made of? What will our insulation be? Will we even need insulation? Maybe we have materials come along that really change the approach we have to manufacturing, right? So we're quite interested in all that, and I look forward to it. I feel like what we're doing now is pretty old-fashioned, and of course we don't know what we're going to end up using, but we're really excited to see how those things change and how manufacturing picks up the opportunities that are out there, whether it's incumbents or new folks that show up and find ways to deliver value. You know, the long-term life cycle is really got to be our target. We can't have these 20-year buildings where the next generation is probably not going to want to pay for them, or maybe not be able to pay for them. I think that's probably the biggest risk we have, right? Is if you leave your next generation a building, unless they're incredibly nostalgic or really wealthy, it may not be realistic for that building to even stay in service. So hopefully we can consider those things and start designing for what the future generations need. And as materials come along and practices come along, hopefully we can see those changes come to bear. There you go. So yeah, if y'all want to reach out, please do. We've got a lot going on, and it's hard to share all of it in a meeting like this, but we're keen to hear from people that have ideas and maybe have a use for our solutions as we roll things out. Keep an eye on us. We'll see how it goes.
Did anybody have any questions? So just to do a little recap, because you and I kind of talked through this. Basically, where you guys are at, you have a ship to site product, you have a hybrid product, and then you have your prefab product. And for you, Andrew, you have these products already out in there in Central Texas. Are there any that are in Australia right now? Because that's where the company is headquartered, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they're headquartered near Brisbane, so just north of Brisbane on the Gold Coast. Great area for surfing and diving and architecture, surprisingly. So they're doing a glulam version there, and we want to work with a glulam manufacturer here. We'll see what happens with the market here in Texas, but we're trying to. I mean, in some cases, it's difficult to use wood for certain types of structures. We don't maybe have a ready-made solution for wood if we're doing particular types of structures, particularly when they're tall. But I mean, there's no reason we can't innovate a little bit or work out some of those things in the future. But we're really metal and wood based now, and we're trying to work out, particularly for the prefab. You know, if we're doing a manufactured solution out of wood, that would be really satisfying for us. So in Australia, that's what they're doing right now. We've got two projects that are the glulam based solution, and here we're not using glulam yet, but we want to. I think the lead time for those particular custom pieces is a little bit long for us at the moment. So yeah, we've got product in different parts of the world, in the US, just Texas and California. And then we have product in Bermuda and Australia, and I don't know if it's still there, but we had product in Hong Kong as well. You'll see the pictures on the website from Hong Kong. It's obviously a really nice spot. So yeah, we're working on the wood there, and as Nexus is developed as a solution, it's quite far ranging. So there's a little bit coming along. We're just doing the single story product right now. We'll work on the stacked next. I'd like to do a 2-story in Austin as soon as possible. It's a pretty interesting market there right now, but we think we'll get there pretty soon. And So we are based in Texas, but it's a global business, and for us in Texas, the market is North and South and Central America and the Caribbean, and we can do global products as well. We're keen on that, whether that's Europe or somewhere else. We get quite a bit of interest from the Americas, particularly South America, and other parts of the world as well. So we're keen to get to those markets. We think Nexus is something that we can manufacture pretty locally. So we'll see how that goes, but that's something we're working on.
Do you think that these other markets are becoming, they're basically expanding because of how easily this is to set up? Because you and I were talking, and you could be a one-person show putting this together, right?
Yeah, you could.
I mean, you need help. I mean, if you technically
you need help. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we've tried to play out what we think the minimum, the leanest possible team would be, and we kind of think it's about 3 people. So who those people are and what they want to do, what they like to do, obviously plays into it. But if you're kind of moderately handy, we see a lot of opportunities there for folks who maybe not actual traditional craft builders, they don't maybe have to be carpenters or don't have to be all this other stuff, because the approach that we have is intended to make the whole process of development simpler. So for us, that's a big part of it's a big part of what does offsite bring? It's having something that's planned out ahead of time. So more or less you're doing something like an assembly rather than really complicated carpentry. So my experience is rooted in heavy construction and commercial construction. I don't have a big background in home building. So some of the aspects of home building are kind of surprising to me. It's quite antiquated, and the results are maybe sometimes very beautiful, but not everybody can appreciate that. And I think we're the type of design group that maybe if you're a carpenter, that's not a problem, but you don't have to be super strong. You don't have to have this long history in the trades. With help from people like Modular SureSite, you can do all these things a lot easier than a traditional build, particularly a site build project. So yeah, we think those markets, Argentina, for instance, they have a strong sense of style. Houses are inherently individualistic projects. Nature is always a big part of the folks, the preferences of the folks who reach out to us. So they see that we showcase nature, right? You want to be able to see what you're looking at, and not sheltering from nature, but kind of a positive outward look towards nature. And Argentina, for instance, is, I think, a culture of a marketplace, maybe. I mean, it's a troubled marketplace. They have their, this legacy of economic challenges, but they have what I'd say is pretty good taste, and they like these prefab solutions. So
who doesn't?
Yeah, well, you're right. Of course, yeah, we're the choir. So I think they react to it because we are, yeah. We're hopeless cases for sure. Yeah, we don't want anything else. I think that they're keen for it, and their governments are probably more realistic about problem solving. Well, I don't know, maybe that's too general, but I think that their openness to it seems to imply that the political environment, maybe the land and planning part of things will change more quickly. We seem pretty set in our ways. I don't know if the U.S. will be the last rich country to really consider itself and make positive changes, right? I mean, we definitely need to back off some of the NIMBYism and whatever. Community requires people, and if we're all divided, it makes it difficult. So I think the 1950s outlook on housing and zoning is probably, hopefully it dies soon, but probably it's on its way out. And I think other countries that are more realistic, that have less Europe and Japan obviously have embraced manufactured housing a long time, and manufactured not in the, for us, it's kind of a byword, but I mean, cheap housing is a good thing. Why is it a byword? But for us, the opportunity looks global. Dan, our design lead, has a pretty good European sensibility. Obviously, he's Australian, so it also has a lot more nature than you might get out of a typical European feeling. Up north, where in Europe, where a lot of the designs, or I don't know, IKEA, that kind of thing, come from, nature's harsher. So Dan's very nature centric, and so a lot of his designs are very embracing of nature, and nature in Australia can be pretty radical, right? The spiders and snakes and all this stuff. So it's quite interesting. For us, it's exotic and dangerous at the same time. But his style, I think, is appealing to a global audience. The approach for us is to try to find where those markets are and do as much as we can to either supply them with product based in some regional manufacturing location, or we can export from the US where that makes sense,
Yeah. And it's nice you guys are able to use railway. You were saying this Pacific, Northwest, Southern Georgia, California, Utah, Florida, all of those areas are great markets. We did have a question. Is your product really expensive? Is it more on the expensive side, your Nexus product? Lucy really loved the design, and she was just wondering on a general idea of, pricing. Is it really super expensive?
Yeah. Well, Lucy, it's I'm not sure if you're a developer or I see a note there. Sorry, I wasn't watching. Thanks for loving the design. It kind of depends on what we're doing. So for us, and you probably get this a lot in this space, we're designing for value. So we're trying to give you as the customer as much value as we can, and that's really based on you. We need to understand what you think is value, and if you need a really big space, we can do that. If you need a really small space, we can do that. If you have a budget, we're keen to work with it. You can kind of probably tell that we're design oriented. So we like cool stuff, or maybe luxury. Our luxury is not about waste. We don't think of it as cladding everything in gold. We're trying to deliver the luxury of kind of the carefree luxury, right? You don't have a lot of needs. The buildings don't have a lot of needs that you need to meet. It's not demanding on you. It's not demanding on the nature around you. So it's kind of a freedom-based luxury, and that's not always super expensive. The finishes that we use are not crazy expensive, but the project is it's hard to talk about if I don't know the details. But generally speaking, I think we're probably in the middle to the top of the price point. So we don't really compete at a low price point. That's hard to do unless you have a lot of volume, and we would look more like a custom builder than probably if we're doing 40 or 50,000 units a year, it's probably going to look a lot different. But right now, we're not the cheapest, but we can. It's a simple product, so I think, without knowing a lot of detail,
right? You just have to look at the product
it's based
and
on
see
the
where
thing,
you're at.
And like people don't. It's the old bag of groceries or how long is a piece of string. We need a little more context to answer that, and if our pricing is high, then we're kind of interested, because if you're comparing us to somebody else, then we kind of want to know what that is, because you don't. A lot of times the dollar per square foot comes up, and we think that's a really poor measurement for housing, because you don't buy cars by the pound. Why are we going to buy houses by the square foot? I mean, what does a square foot mean? We don't even know what that is. And if it's leaky and only lasts 20 years, well, and you spent $700,000 on it, is it a good choice? I don't know. So all those things, Lucy, require a little more detail, but we see ourselves probably on the middle and up we don't have any maximum budgets, but you know, we're trying to deliver something kind of cool. That can be expensive in some ways, but you know, we spend less in other ways. So just see how it works out. But feel free to contact us. We'd be happy to try to understand what a good answer would be to that.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew, with GPod
Oh,
America.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it. We
Yeah.
love seeing your designs, and it's exciting that you're
Oh,
even
thank
in
you.
one right now, which makes it
Oh,
even
yeah.
more exciting to see.
Yeah.
But it's been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
they're
We
fun.
appreciate your time and great job
Thank
today.
you so much, Audrey. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing there in Denver, and keep up the great work. It's amazing. I love the offsite dirt approach. You guys are a great team. I can't wait to see what happens, and thanks for letting me share. And hello to all of the folks we miss in Denver, and just, you know, thanks for all the great community up there. You guys are wonderful. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Devin.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
If you have
See
any
y'all.
questions or you want to know a little bit more about Andrew, he is on our offsitedirt.com website. You can actually read a little bit more about his background, and there's a click through to his website. So thank you for being here. We hope to see you our following last Tuesday of the month is always when we do these events. We do them either at 9 a.m. or at 4 p.m. So just check the times. We typically post them on LinkedIn. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. All right, Audrey. Thank you. See
Thank
y'all.
you. Bye, Andrew.
All right. Bye.